Alright, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD123 here, back again here on PlayStation Source. And I was gonna turn on the camera and I was gonna do a whole, IRL type of thing. But you know what, guys? Honestly, it is 11 p.m. Alright, I had a long day. Okay, so we're just gonna do an audio recording. Hope you guys enjoyed. And by the way, this gameplay that you are seeing, yes, it is my gameplay. It's not the best, okay? I understand. I'm a little rusty at this little thing called factions, and we are gonna talk a lot about what I want out of Factions 2. I'm gonna call it Factions 2. We're not sure what it's gonna be called. It's Naughty Dog's next big project that is the multiplayer component that was supposed to be with Last of Us Part 2, but then was taken away, as you all know. So it is going to be a standalone release, and I want to run down what I want to see out of this. I have 5 major things I want here in Factions 2. The first one here, of course, is to still feel like Factions and to still have that classic Factions feel and classic Factions mode as well. Okay, so I want to see supply raid for that casual TDM type mode where you just get off work and you play some supply raid. It's no big deal. I want to see some interrogation where there is a long play session that lets you be able to do more challenges and just do more things in a given game. That definitely lends itself very well to interrogation because it's a longer game mode. And I also want to have survivors come back as well for just that really intense night of gaming where you have limited respawns and it's very intense, it's very competitive, and it's like ultra sweaty in those modes as well. And of course, these 3 modes aren't new, but I think that they are very integral to what made Factions great and the different modes that they offered in the original Last of Us. And with Neil Druckmann saying that he feels that Factions 2 was something that, quote, they grew beyond an additional mode for, and it was ended up being taken away from Last of Us Part 2 as a release, it is safe to say that this is going to be a much bigger game, a much bigger scale, thus being, of course, standalone at this point as well. So while yes, the expansion of a mode that we all love and enjoy can be great, I still wanted to retain the classic feel of Factions and at least give us the opportunity to get that classic feel just in a modern engine, in a modern 2021 release. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that, let's just only have what Factions was. Let's expand, but let's still keep what Factions was in the original Last of Us. This next one is probably one of my biggest things that I want to see change with Factions 2. That is the inclusion of, yes, and I mean this with a full sincerity, a fair business model. Factions, listen guys, Factions in 2013 and even to this day is essentially pay to win, kind of, okay? You have the ability to buy weapons that have different stats and can alter gameplay in the original Factions, which I always found not ideal for a full price game. And let's say hypothetically Naughty Dog does not see a problem with the Factions business model and they just want to keep it the same, right? Let's say they want to bring it back in the exact same fashion. I think honestly at that point you have to go free to play or do something that is kind of what Uncharted 4 multiplayer did, where what they did was that they did allow you to buy weapons and boosters, but they also mainly allowed you to buy cosmetics via these points called Uncharted points that were purchased with real money. So yes, there was an element of buying different weapons that you can use with real money, and they also gave you the opportunity to earn these different things and these different aspects, so all these cosmetics, all these weapons, all these boosters via in-game garnered relics through gameplay. So there was a system where if you didn't want to spend money, you could achieve that weapon that you could just buy for if you want to, right? So this is very similar to what we have right now in the Call of Duty model, where you can either buy the battle pass or you can earn through ranking up in a given season to achieve said weapon or cosmetic, this and that, third, whatever, right? So considering that they made $56 million off digital downloads and microtransactions in June 2016, it wouldn't surprise me if they do make it back into Factions 2 in terms of microtransactions with weapons and all that, but I think they can do better by the players. I say if it's free to play, copy Uncharted 4 and allow users to grind for cosmetics or buy them outright. If it's paid, I personally don't mind cosmetic items, but above all else, if you're going to add weapons, I say personally you treat it like maps. How with maps in a lot of different multiplayer games in the modern day, they are just added with seasonal content to make sure that the game still feels fresh even when it's a few weeks of release, a few months of release, even a few years out of release, that they still have that free content flow to make the game still feel fresh for recurring players that come back to the mode. So I say add it with the maps, do it like Call of Duty where they add different weapons to different seasonal content. And even though yes, you can buy weapons in Call of Duty that are new, there is a way to at least unlock them via gameplay, and I would say just don't even do the COD model. I say maps and weapons are free updates that happen seasonally. Next up here, this one is probably not even worth saying, but I did want to kind of just reiterate it and really focus on this whole thing, okay? The Last of Us Part 2 was in 30 frames on PS4 and PS4 Pro as well, and even is still 30 frames on PS5, which is beyond me. I don't know how we still haven't gotten a PS5 update for this game, but I digress, right? 30 frames, okay? 30 frames was cool literally on PS4, okay? But we are in the PS5 era, okay? Your boy over here wants all the frames, and by all the frames, I'm not talking like 120 frames, I'm just talking 60 frames, okay? 60 frames needs to be integral to factions, period. Okay, like I really want 60 frames more than anything, and like this is gonna be a side ask as well. Okay, so the main ask is 60 frames. Okay, if we can do 4K, I will take that as well. You know what I'm saying? I will take that happily. Okay, but if I have to sacrifice 4K to get 60 frames, I am completely fine with that. I highly doubt that the PS5, is only capable of, running factions at 1080p 60. I highly doubt that. Like, even if it's like a 1440p render and it's checkerboard to 4K, I'll take that. Just like, listen, just the main thing here is 60 frames a second. The Last of Us Part 2 factions needs to be in 60 frames. I think that is undeniable. That is something that I'm not willing to trade. That is just a fact that we need to have in factions 2. Next one here, this one also probably doesn't need to be said necessarily because it's probably a given, but I still want to lay it out just in case. Okay, I really want factions 2 to really have the same gameplay and feel and have the same animations as The Last of Us Part 2. Now, the one that I'm kind of lenient on is the animations, because the animation work in The Last of Us Part 2 is legit some of the most detailed animations we have seen in the generation and in gaming as a whole, right? Like, it is a very, very big deal, those animations in Last of Us Part 2, right? And it is also telling that I think that the reason why the animations look so good is because the way the game lines up you and an enemy AI to make that animation look really fluid is something that I think we haven't seen in games a lot, right? And so it's really hard, I would imagine it's very hard, right, to make an animation look very, very crisp and look very, very good every single time in a mode where we have player controlled characters, right? So I can understand where an animation might not look the best on a multiplayer, I get it, right? But I want at least the factions mode to still have that same gameplay and overall feel as The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 feels amazing on the sticks to me personally. I think it felt great. I loved going into cover, then moving from one cover to another cover, maybe popping a headshot over here, popping my dude on the left hand side, and you're just doing so many movements and making so many decisions and aiming and killing, and everything feels so fast and so fluid that it feels so in tune with what you actually want that character to do, and it's done in the game. Like, it just feels great, and I think that those that have played Last of Us Part 2 know exactly what I'm talking about, and I really want factions to still have that type of feel to the overall gameplay. And honestly, I think it will, you know what I'm saying, because obviously they are going to be using the bone and the overall structure and the overall gameplay code of The Last of Us Part 2 in this new mode. So this one I'm not really that worried about, but I still want to just lay it out that I really want factions 2 playing in that to really feel as close as possible to playing Last of Us Part 2. Last one here, this one's the big one here. Horde Mode. Yes, I saw a lot of people commenting on my last video about Factions 2, about a Horde mode that they would like to see in the game. And honestly, it is something that I haven't thought of that deeply until I made that video and read all those comments. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. I think having a Horde mode in The Last of Us Factions Part 2, whatever you want to call it, would honestly make a lot of sense for a multitude of reasons that we can point to. But, you know, I'm not saying that the Horde mode should be or needs to be the main focal point of Factions. I would honestly want to be a very cool side mode that maybe it's a way that you can get resources for your specific faction if they carry over that whole system from the original game. And just overall, I think it would be a really cool casual mode to just blow off steam if you're really, you know, doing competitive factions. You want to just do one last game with your friends, and you can do this really cool Horde mode and just have fun and just, you know, just have just a nice casual experience, because factions can get pretty sweaty, I know that, right? But it would also make a lot of sense because they've done a lot of similar things in Uncharted 4 as well, with survival mode, where that was also horde based as well. It wasn't with, obviously, you know, infected, it was with enemies, but it's a very similar, you know, type of mode that they've done this horde mode type of aspect to their games. And along with that, if you have played The Last of Us Part 2, you know of a particular part that I'm about to spoil, so spoiler alerts if you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. Number one, not sure why you're watching this video, but I guess I understand. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, there is that specific part in the game where you're playing as Abby in the forest, and she does end up being in a little bit of an encounter that seems to be like a horde mode as well. So take a look at this and tell me this wouldn't be a really cool horde mode type of scenario.
Sure, you open that gate, right? We'll open it. Come on. Your turn. Watch that arm. Ricky, Doc. Fuck. Hurry up. How's it going out there? Hey, where are you two? Hey! Fucking scars. Can't believe I trusted scars.
Those have been the main 5 things that I really want to see in Factions 2. That's my definitive list, but I also have one more component as well to The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer that does incorporate a Battle Royale. Let me know, guys, do you want to hear my whole setup on a hypothetical Factions 2 Battle Royale mode? We did do a dedicated episode of Road to Part 2 on this topic, but honestly, my feelings on it have evolved, they've changed, and I really want to kind of make that video. So let me know, guys, do you want to hear that video? Because I definitely could not fit it in this video. I just want to focus it on factions, but there is a whole nother side of it, Battle Royale. I have thoughts. Let me know if you want to hear that, and also let me know your thoughts. Did you agree with me on these Factions 2 lists that I want to see in the mode, or is there something that I missed? Do you think I'm wrong about something? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And make sure also, while you are down there, you can check out our description where you can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and our Anchor link. That way you can listen to our long form content in podcast format. Those, of course, being Road to series, and of course Saves a Lot podcast as well, that happens on a weekly basis. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank God for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.